Hi guys, and welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Zula and today I'm going to be showing you the 3 games from my first tournament after 1 year of not playing chess. As some of you will know, I just played my first chess tournament in over a year, and so today we will be looking through my games and I will be seeing what went well and what went not so well. So to give you some background on the tournament, this was a 1-day event with 3 games of a time control of 50 plus 10. So that does count as FIDE classical, but it means that if you get to under 5 minutes, you stop notating. I have my score sheets here, trying not to show you what happened before the games. These are my 3 score sheets. So thankfully I did play all 3 games. Nobody defaulted against me. And I have heard from the comments before that you guys don't like to know the results in advance of the game. So I will not be revealing to you my score or the results until the end of each game. So we will see how it goes together. So I will not be sharing the identities of my opponents, but I will be telling you their ratings. In round 1, I played with the white pieces against an unrated opponent. And basically the way that the pairings were done, because it is a team event with 4 players and 4 boards, is I was on board 3 and the teams are matched up initially based on the mean rating of the team, the average. And so that's just how we got paired up against this team. Although I think everybody on our team was rated. I think quite a few people on this team weren't rated, so I don't really know how it worked out. But I had, like I said, the white pieces and I didn't know what to expect. There was no time in this tournament to prepare for your opponents, and also for these tournaments, like for pretty much every tournament I've played in France, whenever you're playing against somebody from the French Federation, good luck prepping for them. Like, just good luck, because the games are never uploaded online. Every game you just go in blind and you see what happens. And we had a petrov and I was like, okay, the petrov. And I decided, I was like, do I want to play the 4 knights? And then I remembered that YouTube video where I tried to play the 4 knights and so I took the pawn. And then she played d6 and I was like, okay, cool, that's fun. I wonder if we're gonna get a Stafford gambit or something, because I think this is also how the Stafford gambit starts. So I played knight back, obviously, and then she did not gambit the pawn, which I think if she plays knight to c6, this is, I don't know, the Stafford gambit or something. So she just played normal chess and she took on e4, and I played d4, which is the main move, and she played d5. And now we have an exchange French. No, I'm kidding, but it is like a similar pawn structure to what you get in the exchange French, but the pieces go to different places at the very least. So bishop to d3, I am developing bishop to f5. Apparently this is a book move. I've also seen like just f5 in the past from opponents. I remember last summer in Portugal, I played Maya and there was a blitz tournament and I played against this girl and she played f5 and I was like very unhappy and didn't know what to do. But my opponent played bishop to f5. I castled and bishop to e7, rook to e1. I'm just basically gonna attack the knight until it can't stay there anymore. I didn't really know if c4 was thematic if they don't play f5, or if c4 was only thematic if I really need to undermine the piece. So I kind of didn't go for a c4. But after knight to d2, I think she just needs to go back and then we maybe trade. Because obviously if she takes my knight, I can take the bishop and I have the bishop pair, and I should be very happy to have the bishop pair on the open board. But here, I think she just didn't really perhaps know, maybe she just didn't see knight to d6. So she just continued developing and I got a pawn for free. I got a pawn for free on move 12. So that's nice. I was very happy to have a pawn for free on move 12. Bishop to f6, you know, developing, attacking. That's not how either of those pieces move, but I traded. I'm up a pawn and okay, your bishop is bad and I have no need to play like c4 right now. Like, I'm just gonna play with my comfy extra pawn. Simple chess. Look, I'm attacking another pawn. So she defends the pawn and I am going to take the open file, only open file that there is. And I was pretty happy. Now she can't play rook to e8. That's why I played queen here. And I also thought maybe the queen could come and do some nasty stuff on the light squares potentially. So her plan is to reroute the knight, I assume, to g6 to attack my bishop. That's what I thought. But actually it can also go to d5, which is where it went to. Don't really know why I thought it was going to g6, because d5 is obviously central and you want your knights on central squares. So, okay, I am doing a little bit of pressure, but nothing really. And then I decided to complicate things. My coach said here I should have just moved the bishop, which, yeah, I probably should just move the bishop, shouldn't I? But I didn't move the bishop because I was like, oh, tempo on the queen. And if they take, then bishop for knight. Why not? Why not bishop for knight? Because I feel like it's not good to play f6 because then there's a pin and it's just uncomfortable. Yeah, I thought that this was fine. And then she played rook to e8. And I was like, ooh, you know what? That's a very nice move, because now if I take your queen, I don't get checkmated, but I have to give you the rook and the queen. So it's not good. It's very bad. Obviously it would be a blunder. And here I was like, oh, well, how do I want to protect the rook? And I decided to play king to f1. The move kind of haunted me for the rest of the game. Stockfish doesn't like it. Stockfish thinks it's a mistake, and I would tend to agree. After having played this game, as you can see, I no longer have an advantage. But I would still say my position is better. I'm up a pawn, but I don't have an initiative or an advantage. And black gets a little bit of initiative. So, okay, still wanting to threaten a checkmate. And so I decide I don't want to be checkmated. I know, crazy thing. I don't want to be checkmated. That's something it's a rule I try to live by. Here, again, bishop to g3, top engine move. I am not top engine, just in case you didn't know that. I played bishop to d2 because for me that made perfect sense to defend and unpin the knight. Except now there's this really like potentially nasty tactic of bishop takes, and if I take back I lose my queen, which is really nasty. And I saw this on the board. Like I saw this as soon as I played bishop d2, I was like, that looks bad. Except thankfully it doesn't work because I can move the queen because the bishop is pinned. Beautiful. And this is great. So actually I didn't blunder. It was fine. But I was sat there fully like for a minute or two thinking that I had blundered. Then I saw the queen d3 move and I was like, oh, okay, it's fine, I'm surviving. I was wondering also if I could play queen to b3 as with the same idea because the queen is defended here, but the engine doesn't like it so much. But I think that practically in a game this would have been okay. But actually my opponent didn't go for this, which I think is fair because she probably doesn't want to give the bishop for the knight if there's no forcing win. I mean, my knight is very nice there though. But her knight is fine. Her knight is quite nice. My bishop is not very nice. But yeah, that was very nasty for a second. And I was sat next to one of my teammates and he was like looking at my game and he was like, and then after the game, he was like, did you not like hang your queen? And I was like, no, there was a pin. Like, please don't think less of me. So it was all okay. It was close there for a moment, but she just played queen to d6. I'm not exactly sure what the plan here is behind queen to d6. I guess maybe she doesn't want to trade queens, but maybe wants the freedom of being able to move her knight. I'm really not too sure. And now the rook is also undefended on e8, so it feels like a weird move to play. I played f4, which my coach also really hated when we looked at this game together yesterday, because she was like, that is a breezy king. But, you know, in my head, I was like, we don't have any light squared bishops. If she wants to trade the queens and double her own pawns, I'm chill with it. And my horsey is so stable. Like, not to make horse puns yet again on this channel, but my horsey is so stable. And I was like, oh, now if she wants to take, I have just like this is beautiful in my opinion. Like, yes, I should be a little bit careful, but beautiful center. I love it. I love that center. So, okay, I was a little bit presumptuous to play f4 with the queens on the board, perhaps. But, okay, my opponent also doesn't know what to do. She really is defending c7. That is a very well-defended pawn, to be fair. To be fair to her, it's a very well-defended pawn. I thought maybe this was so that she could bring the queen to f6, and I don't know if she had plans for like g5 or something. I'm not too sure, but that's what I was thinking, is maybe she's trying to free the square for the queen. I thought in this position, I was like, okay, what should I do? Her pieces, I think a few moves ago were good, but now this is like a loose rook and an undeveloped bishop, and the knight has to stay protected by the queen. So I felt like her pieces now lack harmony, whereas my pieces feel better than they were a few moves ago, maybe. I don't know. So I was like, okay, I'll just be annoying, because that's obviously the whole goal of chess, is to be as annoying as possible. And I played queen to b5, and I was like, well, your rook is undefended and your pawn is also undefended. So what are you gonna do? And here I really honestly thought that she could just play this move and trade the queens, and it would save all of her material. But to be fair, I don't think it even does save all of her material, because I'm already up a pawn, and this endgame is probably like not very good for her, I would assume. I mean, I probably shouldn't even take this, but yeah, I don't think that this is like the best endgame to go into, probably down 2 pawns. So here after queen to b5, Stockfish thinks, yeah, you don't save the material. I can just take on b7, and that is the same conclusion that my opponent came to. Except she played rook to f8, which is, you know, less active. I think on e7, it's a very uncomfortable move to play because the bishop is squished, like the bishop is behind and can't get out. But at least, you know, she was still contesting the e-file, which now she's not contesting the e-file. So I played queen takes b7, yummy pawn. Lula is up 2 pawns. Let's see if Lula can convert a 2-pawn endgame. And she played a6 to defend this pawn, so I couldn't grab another one. I really don't know what Stockfish wants at this point, just to bring the pieces back to develop them. So after this, I decided I'm just going to trade the queens, because this should be good for me. I mean, Stockfish wants us to now create more problems with knight to c4, but I thought, you know, up the 2 pawns, and why would I not just try and trade the queens? So I tried to trade the queens, and I traded the queens, because she just can't avoid a queen trade. So Stockfish says, okay, there's a better way to trade the queens, because now the knight is not so annoying. I mean, it can still come to c6, but I guess it's slightly less good for me. I have my knight on c6. It's a very nice horse. And now is the matter of Lula trying to convert a winning endgame, which I'm not sure is something I've ever done in my life. But actually my pieces are, like my knight, it is so good on c6, because it stops, you know, this knight from being rerouted, and my rook is stopping this knight from coming back to e8. And so my pieces are really exerting a lot of power. Good for them. I played a4 because I was planning on mobilizing. That's it. c4 apparently is better, but I was like, let's mobilize. And now I have made the infamous bucket pawn structure. I don't really know what that means, but yes, it is very hard for her to get her king into the game. Also, the rook cannot come here or here, and it does nothing here. And I would have, I don't know, maybe been able to check and then trade and then play rook e7, so that would have not been so good. So king h7 I get, but black's position is just really miserable and hard to do something with. I thought that maybe like some g5 ideas were possible. That was what I was looking at too, because I want to play like f5 and bishop to f4, and I want to take that pawn. My plans for this game were just, how can I take another pawn? That was it. There was really no master plan. It was all, how can I take another pawn? So yeah, I thought that this was potentially the most annoying plan, but king to h7, I got f5, and okay, her plan is to come in and block me. And so I decided to just take anyway, because now it's like harder for her to stop me from advancing my pass pawns. Obviously, I'm not going to take that. Imagine if at this point in the game I was like, yes, let's give black all of the possibilities, all of the possibilities to start checking me. I was like, no, thank you. You can have the free pawn I will be promoting. And then she resigned, because I am going to be getting a new queen. I mean, you can, like, I guess, play this if you want to. I don't want to play that though, so I think it was reasonable that she resigned here. It's very difficult though, especially when you're playing in like a team tournament, because you have this pressure to play on, You have a pressure to not resign in a team tournament because you really want to perform, and you know that in a team tournament, a draw is a good result. And so I would have also understood if she had wanted to play on in this position, but she very respectfully just resigned. So that was game number 1. I should also give you a little bit of context. I was so anxious for this tournament because it was my first team tournament since 2022. It was my first chess tournament with this chess club, my first chess tournament in a year, my first time playing a chess tournament that wasn't live streamed in like 3 years. It's just like there were a lot of firsts, and I didn't sleep well the night before. I woke up at 2:30 a.m. with like severe nausea due to anxiety, and then I got back to sleep at maybe 4:30, I think, until 7:30, and then I woke up with the same severe nausea. I took anti-nausea pills at 2:30 and 7:30. Realized that they have a level 2 drowsiness warning on them. So I was not only like sleep deprived, but also nauseous and also drowsy. It was very rough because I don't know why, but my body says no to competing and to competition. My body just says absolutely not. My body says that is a horrible idea. Why would you want to compete? And I had such bad nausea due to anxiety throughout the whole event. I was on edge the whole event. Like, we went out for lunch as a team and I ate almost nothing because I was like, this is going to make the nausea worse. And then as soon as the third game ended, I basically, like, my body was like, danger averted, I'm gonna collapse now, because I think I just had so much adrenaline running through me the whole day that my body was like, you can just sleep for the next 20 years. There was absolutely nothing chill about this event for me. It seems like it should be really calm and quiet because I've played huge events like the Olympiad and big opens, but this, I don't think I've ever physically been so affected by a chess tournament in my entire life. So that's interesting, and I think that's fun and new thing to deal with. I think it's mainly because I haven't played in such a long time. Like, that's the biggest gap I've had in competing since I started competing. 1 year is a very long time. I was very relieved to win the first game, but it did not affect my mental state or physical state at all, unfortunately. I wish that I could say that after winning the first game, I relaxed and chilled out. Not at all, not even slightly. So let's look at game number 2. Game number 2, I had the black pieces because I had the white pieces in round 1. And my opponent was 1472 rated. So he was rated. We have d4, d5, and the Queen's Gambit. I, for reasons unbeknownst to all humankind, played the Queen's Gambit accepted. And he played the sharpest, most aggressive line with e4, which is pretty much the only line of the Queen's Gambit accepted where you need to know theory. Thankfully, I do know the theory. It's like the only theory I know. So here, castles is the main move, and it's going to look very weird, and it looked weird. There was someone else from my team afterwards who came up to me and he was like, didn't you have like a bad position? And I was like, no, it's just a really weird line, because here the main move is bishop to e6. And obviously, usually, like, that's not very good. Like, this, usually you would not be very happy with this kind of pawn on e6. But like, if you look at the situation at hand, we're up a pawn. And so white has to play this move, queen to b3. And the response is queen to d7. And this I know. Like, I know this line up until, like, I know that the bishop comes to d6, the knight goes through e7 to g6, we short castle, and then we have an attack, and basically you want to avoid pushing e5 for as long as possible, because all of your counterplay is I mean, you don't want to kill your bishop. So this is something that I know I've had it over the board only once, and sadly I misplayed it, but I was kind of excited to have the opportunity to play this line again. My opponent actually didn't know it turns out. So up until here, he has played correctly. And here, I think he just didn't know it. So he played e5. And e5 is not it's not the way to play. I think this pawn is just not very good, if you will. It's just not supposed to be there. But I get it. Like, he wants to isolate this pawn and maybe attack this one. So I just continued with my development that I knew was good. He wants to pin my knight, so I played queen to d5. And I think this is like one of maybe the main reasons why e5 is not so good, because the queen is really strong on e5, cannot be attacked by the knight, and there is no light squared bishop. In this line, it makes queen to b3 pretty much unplayable. Because, I mean, my opponent did go on to play queen to b3 on this move. I thought this was incredibly strange as a choice, because you end up getting isolated doubled b pawns, which are just not very nice. And it makes, I don't know, it makes my queenside pawns stronger. I just didn't really understand that choice. So I was very happy with the outcome of the opening. As you can see, Stockfish believes in me. Bishop to c5 might look strange, but you don't really want to play bishop to b4, because then like you can either get attacked here on e4, or you can get attacked here, and then your bishop just has to move again anyway. So I decided to just protect my pawn, because I'm gonna castle and my bishop has to come somewhere, and I don't want to necessarily trade it here right now. I mean, Stockfish wants me to play h6 and kick the bishop away. Probably should have done that multiple times. Never did it. My bad. Knight coming to attack my pawn. Okay. It is a little bit of a one move threat, so I defended the one move threat. Okay, like he has definitely developed these pieces. They're both loose. Here I was considering like lots of different things. I didn't know if I should attack their pawn. Okay, so they're attacking my pawn 3 times. I'm not very good at drawing arrows today. They're attacking my pawn 3 times. I'm attacking their pawn twice. They're defending it twice. But, you know, there are things happening. And so here my spidey senses started tingling, which apparently they shouldn't have done. And obviously I can't play the move I want to play, which is rook to d8 just to defend my pawn. Okay, I can play h6. I probably should have just played h6 and just rook a d8. And this is what my coach said I should have played, because I should have just played simple chess. Same as in the last game, I should have not played f4, I should have played simple chess. The thing that is difficult for me about that is that I really struggle with playing too passively, and so I'm really trying to correct that. Like, I'm really like, most of the games my coach is telling me, go for it, you need to attack, you need to go for it more, you need to seize the opportunity. And so now I'm trying, and of course you never get things right the first time you do them, of course, and so I am not necessarily going for it at the right moment. I thought that now could be a fun time to be tricky. You know, why not be tricky and difficult and a problem? Why not be a problem? So I decided to be a problem, and I played d3, because there are a lot of tactics, okay? Stockfish rolls his eyes at me and he's like, So the whole point is that if he takes the pawn, I can play knight takes e5, because even though it's defended twice, I now have an open bishop and rook on the f-file. So actually Stockfish is giving me a double exclam brilliancy here, but you guys can't see that. I wish I'm not lying. Hold on. There we go. I added it manually because I didn't game review these games. So Stockfish is giving me this is a brilliant move, because obviously it looks like sacrifice. And I thought that maybe rook to c3 was the best try here. If they don't want to go down any windy roads where 2 + 2 = 5. I thought this was the safe move. I thought that this is obviously horrible for white. And I thought that this was probably the most complicated, was to take here. And then I thought that it was worth looking at takes with both pieces. So you can take with the bishop. Obviously they can't come here because of discoveries, and then here, and then anywhere the bishop goes, we're threatening checkmate, but also there's like a rook f5 idea. And then I also thought that it was interesting to look at taking with a rook, which is also good and Stockfish thinks is good. But here I was like evaluating all of this from this position. You have to remember that this position is the position I had on the board when I was calculating rook takes f2. And so as somebody who is not very good at calculating, this was where it started to get very blurry and tricky and difficult to see what was happening in my head. I still decided to play d3 because the vibes felt right. You have to admit that this position and this position, they're like quite far apart for your average chess player, and I am your average chess player. And here I saw maybe this move is tricky and like there's a lot to look into, and yeah, anyway, I was like, we'll cross that bridge if and when we come to it. My opponent decided to play a move that I hadn't considered, which was rook d to d1 to go back to protect the back rank and also not enter into any more nonsense and just say we've traded 2 pawns. And here I have like the most basic tactic of all time, which I miss, which is that I can just take and fork the 2 pieces. And I just missed it. But the reason that I missed it is because I decided that I was still going to be in my problematic era where I was going to cause problems. And so I played rook takes f3 because I was like, oh, I'll just triple fork you and get 2 pieces for the rook. Okay, I mean, it's not a bad move. Stockfish actually evaluates this as almost exactly the same now of -4.5 instead of like -5. Okay, it's still okay. But it's all pretty much because 3.5 years ago, Irina Krush told me that in this line of the Queen's Gambit accepted, one day I would get to sacrifice my rook on f3. She told me, okay, Irina Krush told me I would get to sack my rook on f3. And that was 3.5 years ago. And I was like, it's about time. It's about time. And I did it. So yes, I did miss a basic tactic, but I still have the tactics. It was not so bad. My opponent plays rook g1. They want to get some counterplay. Valid. I threaten a threat and take the pawn anyway. Free pawn, yummy pawn, and I have more discoveries. Thankfully, pretty much every move comes with threats. Okay, I get it. They have definite plans for counterplay and c7 is under attack, but I feel as though I have my own stuff going on. So I bring over my rook and I let them take on c7 because I don't really care. And I'm like, oh, I need to bring in the rest of my pieces because I need to have, you know, fully activated pieces. I don't have a queen. I need all of my pieces. And so, yeah, pretty much every move I'm making is coming with a threat of some kind. And here they can try this rook takes g7. And then knight takes, yeah, I looked at this and I thought it wasn't really a big deal because we have 3 pieces for the rook. But this is Stockfish's main line. Okay, interesting. I was wondering if actually here maybe there would be something else with like the discovery, but there's just nothing, so yeah. Actually, after playing this move, I was very anxious that I had blundered something, but no. So rook to e7, and then I decided to play knight to g4. And I was just, okay, discovery, and also I'm trying to control many squares around the king I want to checkmate. Okay, it's obviously become very clear that I would like to checkmate the king because I have no sense of patience, but a very strong sense of whimsy. So I would like to achieve checkmate. So rook c1, check. This is where you have to go to not lose the game on the spot. King to g3. Here I spent a little bit of time. One of the good things is I had excellent time management in this whole tournament, which is something I never thought I would say in my life. But I stayed up on the clock in these first 2 games the entire time. And I spent my time on calculating for d3, to play d3. And I spent my time here looking for the best continuation, because I don't want to just check and then not really know what to do. So I played this move, which is quite tricky, bishop to e3. Stockfish doesn't think it's the best move. And again, here I thought that you have to play rook to c4 because you have to stop me from checkmating you. This is pretty much the only move to stop checkmate. But here now I have, like, I can either potentially take, or I can, okay, it wants me to save my knight before I take, but I have potential tricky things. And I knew that if rook c4 was played, this could not possibly be bad for me. I knew that there were no spooky checks, that these checks really didn't do anything. The opponent, I think, at this point was not happy with the situation at hand. Understandably so, because if this were my king and I had this many of the enemy pieces around my king, I'm going to throw it out there that I potentially would not be happy with the situation at hand. And so he played rook to d1 and I had checkmate in 2. Which honestly is probably the most beautiful checkmate I have ever had in an over-the-board game. I'm not even sure how many checkmates I've had in over the board because I really haven't had that many, because most people resign like a couple of moves before checkmate. This is definitely, I think this is the nicest checkmate I've ever had over the board, yeah. So I was very happy with this win. My heart was beating. I was having real anxiety and heart palpitations. I don't really get anxious when I'm losing. That's the thing. When I'm losing, I'm very zen. But when I'm winning, I have a very elevated heart rate when I'm winning. So this game, I was very happy, obviously, with the result. I thought that it was quite complicated position and my opponent did not put up enough resistance, I suppose, but it's very hard because he was worse out of the opening. But I thought that rook c4, I think rook c4 at 2 occasions in this game would have saved something. So here rook c4 would have stopped checkmate, and then also after this move, oh no, sorry, it wasn't rook c4 here, it was rook c3. So yeah, this like lateral rook move or whatever. Okay, in the other case, it isn't even a lateral rook move, but these like strange rook moves would have been better than what happened. Mostly I played well in this game. d3, I got maybe a little bit lucky. Yes, my coach said mainly what if they play bishop back and now the pawn is a bit weak. I have to play something like bishop here. Then I don't know what happens, so she's right. I was playing a little bit tricky, but you know what? I've never really had the opportunity to do that. And I've played many games of chess over the board where my opponents have played things that are tricky and I have fallen for them. And you know what? Sometimes it is just nice to be on the other end of being tricky. And I know that you never want to play hope chess, but I didn't play d3 thinking it was a blunder or a bad move that only wins if my opponent is bad at chess, because it's not. Again, you can see that Stockfish says I'm still better. But sometimes it is nice to like ask your opponent questions and force them to try and find the best moves rather than just expecting that they will. Sometimes you have to force them to prove it. And a lot of the time it turns out they can't prove it. So I was happy with this game, and then we had the final game. So I want to just give you an update on the standings because round 1 and 2 our team won. So we had 2 wins out of 3, and that meant that in the third round we were playing on like literal board number 1, like table number 1. And so that meant that we were obviously going to have one of the toughest pairings in the third round. I was also going to have hopefully the white pieces. So let's have a look. Okay, so as you can see, my opponent here is 1708 rated. So he's by far my strongest opponent so far in the tournament. I, however, at this point was on 2 out of 3 and feeling invincible. So still very anxious, but I had in my head for this whole tournament just been telling myself, you just need to prove you're the better chess player. Like, you just prove you're the better chess player. That's all you need to do. You can win this game. And so that's just what I was telling myself in this game. And I was very happy to see that we got a Spanish. And I play with d3 to avoid the main line. And they played this bishop to c5 move, which is a move that I've struggled with a little bit in the past. But what I decided pretty much instantly when I saw bishop c5 is, well, I asked myself, what is the difference between this bishop c5 move and bishop to e7? And the difference, to my knowledge, as somebody who started playing e5 with black and I think this is one of the reasons why I needed to start playing e5 with black, is that I know against the Spanish that this bishop is usually a defensive piece. Like usually it comes to e7, you castle, you play rook to e8, and sometimes you play bishop back to f8 and the bishop defends your king. And so this bishop on c5 is not going to be a defensive piece. And so I thought, okay, let's see if we can try to make that a relevant point. Because otherwise, to be honest, I really don't know how to play against this bishop. So if you know, then you can tell me in the comments. That would be great, because I don't know how. So d6, meaning that knight a5 is a threat. So obviously c3, this is all quite normal stuff. And here I know that a4 is possible and that h3 is possible. And I have played a4 in quite a lot of classical games in the past. And here I was just like, do you know what? I just don't even want to entertain the idea of this pin. So just played h3. Castles, rook e1 is normal. Here, I don't know, I guess you can play d4 almost any time, but I want to play rook to e1. It's very thematic. Bishop to b6 to prevent d4 from coming with tempo. And here I played d4. It's not actually a good time. It's not actually a good time to play d4. But like, this is one of the things where I'm saying I'm struggling against this bishop to c5. I think I should just wait. I looked at this also with my coach. I looked at all of these games with my coach, and we came to the conclusion that I need to just wait to play d4 because I end up blundering some pawns. My opponent doesn't take them. Here is example number 1. This pawn is not going to be sufficiently defended for the fact that it's attacked 3 times. So my opponent thankfully has so much faith and respect in me that he doesn't even consider taking my pawn. And he plays knight to a5. So bishop to c2, that's the whole point in c3. And rook to e8. And I play knight to f1, which blunders this pawn. Guys, it had been a long day by this point. You have to remember I was on a very low amount of sleep. I had been terrified to play chess at all, and I'd already played for 2 games. Like, I'd already played 4 hours of chess. So I think I got to the venue at like 9:30 and this game started at 3:30. Basically already had a full school day and I was tired, so please forgive me. This is actually the only time in classical chess. I've played quite a few Spanishes in classical chess. It's the only time I've ever blundered either of these pawns, let alone both. So, okay. Thankfully, my opponent respects me immensely and plays c5. And here I played d5. I was very happy to play d5 because my whole plan was, oh, look, these silly pieces over on the queen side, close the center, we're going over here on the king side because you don't have this key defensive dark squared bishop of your king. And was my whole plan. So even though, okay, maybe this is the game that I've played the worst in out of all of the games today, but this is the only game where I had any kind of meaningful strategy, which is so funny. And that's how we know that chess is purely vibes based. So rook to c8, and here I obviously want to play just knight to g3, knight to f5. But here I remember that I actually am capable of playing good moves, and I played b3, which is the top engine move. And the reason that b3 is so important is because you cannot underestimate b4, and you cannot underestimate them trying to open up the queen side. So if I just play here, then I think that this kind of thing is quite annoying. You cannot play c5 to c4. You cannot play c4 because the pawn is gonna hang, and you don't want to open up the queen side for the ops, and if you let them take, you're still opening up the b file. Yes, okay, it will take them a bit longer to play on the b file, but I just didn't want to do that. So b3, and now if b4, c4, and if c4, b4, and the queen side is closed forever, the opponent realizes that they're gonna have to somehow get something else going on. So knight to g3, my development is quite simple at this point, and okay, bishop back to cover f5, because obviously I want to have a knight on f5. And I cannot just play knight to f5 because this situation is not nice for me. It's not very comfy, and why would I do that? Why would I do that? Like instantly e4 is coming, the knight is gonna wait. So I play bishop to e3 because it's my last undeveloped piece. We're connecting our rooks. This is a pin. c4 is not possible currently. So to make c4 possible, connect the queen and the rook, double the rooks on the e file, I guess. I mean, the rooks are not very useful there, but more for this reconnection. queen to d2. This is partly because I was considering sacrificing on h6, and partly because I was like, well, if you want to take my bishop, I'm going to take back with the queen. c4, I obviously knew was coming because they have to somehow get something somewhere. And here I spent a little bit of time. And I spent a little bit of time because I didn't know if I should play b4. I didn't know if I should sack. And then I also didn't know if I should trade and then play b4. But then I was like, why would I get their queen into the game when their queen is so bad here? So obviously I didn't do that. And here actually, like, if I do sack, Stockfish thinks it's okay. Like, I have compensation for it. But I looked through this with my coach quite extensively, and there is not really any overarching way to win. Okay, we have an attack on the knight, but knight to h7. Like, it's very hard to find a way to win in this position. Like, it's after f6. And I did, like, from a distance see f6 and this very nice rook protection. And even though my calculation is not great and it's a bit blurry, I did see this kind of position with f6, and I was like, I'm not getting checkmate here. So I decided not to sack my bishop, and I played b4 and we traded, and this knight is really bad. One of the worst knights of all time, I would go as far as saying. Here I decided I'm going to play knight to h4. I'm going to put a knight on f5. If you take it, I will reinstall a knight. I'm playing on the king side. Funny thing is, Stockfish actually just wants me to open up the queen side, because now that black has spent all of their time rerouting their pieces to try and protect their king, I can actually just like play here. And like, this is good for me. Obviously, like, this looks nice for me. I don't know why. I did consider it, and then I was like, well, what if they just trade things off? But I neglected the fact that this knight actually just physically cannot move. Like, it doesn't have a space to move to. The queen can't come in. I'm defending. I have full control over the dark squares. This would have been a much nicer continuation, I think, than like what happens in the game, because I don't know how to play this. Like, we had a lesson in our chess club on how to play different types of centers the day before, and I was like, okay, closed center, I need to push the pawns at the king. Oh no, all of my pieces are preventing me from pushing the pawns at the king. So okay, I install a knight, and here I'm like, I'm gonna do it. G4. G4, I'm going to push the pawns at the king. Some of you may not realize how revolutionary it is for me to play not only this kind of center, but to play some kind of attack with a pawn storm. If you're new here, you will just not understand how long it has taken to get me to do anything like this and to actually be better. Like, to actually be in a winning position where I'm successfully pulling this off. It's taken 100 years for this to happen. So knight to g8, because obviously you cannot play g6 because the queen and the knight, you are getting checkmated. So knight to g8, and I just was way too enthusiastic here because I'm so enthusiastic. So I was like, okay, knight to g8, what does that do? It stops me from playing g5, and maybe they want to bring their queen here. And what I completely neglected was that knight to g8 defends h6. And so here I played king h2, and I blundered because g6, and now my knight is, I'm losing a knight. No! I was so upset. I went from being up on the clock here to actually just feeling like I'd been shot in the chest, burning all of my time, knowing that it's over for me and that I will not successfully execute my first ever like kingside pawn storm attack of any kind. And it was so sad. And so here I spent time, I was like, should I sack here? I was like, should I sack here? I was like, should I just play rook g1? Should I just play like queen here? Because, right, we've all accepted I'm losing a knight. The problem is I have two different knights to decide which one I'm losing, and I have like a million different ways to sacrifice it. That's a big issue. Like, I now have many candidate moves of how I would like to lose. And as you can see, Stockfish doesn't think it's very losing, because if I find knight to f3 and then I find d takes, and I have my bishop, which has been my worst piece for the whole game, I have potential to attack. Now, it's only potential to attack. It's like, obviously black is still a little bit better here, but I do have potential. And the potential is going to come with like g5. But I was just heartbroken, devastated, ready to quit chess, and so I didn't see that, and I just sighed, and I didn't know what to do, and I thought that this sack was bad, and this sack was bad, and this sack was bad, and this was bad, and this was bad, and this was bad. I just thought everything was equally bad. And so what I said was, okay, well, maybe I can get a pass pawn in the endgame, because even if you're down a piece, sometimes pass pawns can work in the endgame. And I took on d6, and I told myself I can take on d6 because they have to play queen takes. They don't have to play queen takes because they have a knight. And now all of a sudden the knight that is basically non-existent and not in the game is in the game. And when I saw him pick up the knight, I was like, in my head, I was like, the knight is in the game. This knight was so bad that I forgot that it could even go, like, I would never have taken on d6 if I remembered. I know it doesn't seem to be a meaningful difference, but it felt like a meaningful difference that the knight gets back into the game now. So, I mean, it's just dead losing from here on out. I played knight here because I don't want to allow a forced queen trade. Here, I really was just worried about queen to d2. I didn't know what to do. I really didn't know what to do. I did consider rook to e2, and then I thought that there was a reason that I couldn't play it. And now I don't see the reason why I couldn't play it. So I don't know why I didn't play that, because I really thought that I had no other choice than to play the horrifying move f4 to stop the queen from coming in, and also just be like, maybe I can like mobilize my pawns. I had a very extremely distant dream chat to mobilize my pawns. Never obviously to be realized. And yeah, at this point I was also playing with like less than 1 minute on the clock. We only have 10 seconds increment because I made the excellent life choice to burn all of my time when I blundered. I mean, from here on out, I don't have any counterplay. It's just very easy for black. And funnily enough, we both decided to keep notating, even though we both had like a minute and like 30 seconds. Like I was notating with 10 seconds on my clock because we ball. And also I wanted to share the game with you guys. But then I did get down to such low time that I was like, I really have to stop notating. We played probably like 5 more moves or something, and then I resigned because there was just nothing to do. Like, I actually just can't stop this pawn from falling, and I have nothing. So very sad for Lula. But I actually just didn't really mind because I'd won 2 games, and I don't think I've never won 2 classical games in a day before in my life. Never, because the most I've played is 2 games in one day at like big open tournaments, and no way have I ever won both of those. So I was thrilled I had won 2 games, and this loss, yes, I was devastated about my knight, but I mean, it was such a silly blunder that, like, based on the quality of my opening of me hanging 2 pawns, we can all tell that I'm exhausted. This silly blunder happens when you're fatigued and you're tired and you've already played 4 hours of chess and your brain is not working. So, like, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's not like I got outplayed in a way that makes me second guess if I've ever known how to move the pieces. And that means a lot more to me, knowing that I'm capable of playing a decent middle game. And okay, we're all capable of making a 1-move blunder. I'm not that cut up about it, but I feel very good and optimistic about the prospect of actually pulling off this kind of attack at some point in the future, some point in the near future. And that is something that I didn't know I was capable of, and without needing to sacrifice a bishop on h6 and just being able to do it in a cool and classy way. So hopefully that is coming soon. Watch this space for Lula pulling off a kingside attack. And I hope you enjoyed this recap. I'm sorry it's been a little bit long, but they were 3 classical games, so I've tried to go through them as quickly as possible. No doubt that there are things that I haven't talked about in these games, things that I've missed, things that you have questions about. Feel free to comment down below. If I wanted to analyze these games in depth, we would be here for double the amount of time. That is my return to classical chess after a year away. I was very happy to play with the team. Unfortunately, we didn't qualify. 7 teams qualified. We were the 8th. But it's not my fault because in the third round, 3 out of 4 of us lost. So thankfully it wasn't my game that was like the decider, because I think if I had been the only one in the team that lost and then we didn't qualify, I would be probably not so cheerful. Yeah, that's what happens when it's a team, like it's a combined score. So in some ways you feel more responsible, in some ways you feel less responsible. And I really enjoyed it. So I am looking forward to playing another tournament. I'm starting to play in a league starting in January. And I hope to return to international tournaments from the spring. So let me know in the comments if you know any good ones. Potentially streaming them, potentially just doing recaps. We will see. I'm not sure. I think maybe not having a camera on me whilst I play is good, but then recapping them after for you guys is also good. So you can tell me how you feel. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.